All right, guys, what's going on? Taylor May Hoops Live and Direct checking in today. Segment is going to be Legends of the Game. And what Legends of the Game is for people out there, I'm going to be interviewing coaches who have had a great impact on and off the court, who have a great influence, with people on and off the court. And today I have a very, very special guest. Go ahead and let everybody know who Taylor Made Hoops has the pleasure of speaking with.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Taylor. I'm JD Mayo, and honored to be here today.
Oh, Coach, I'm definitely honored to be able to interview you, Coach. And today, so everybody know, today we'll just be covering a few topics, a few points of conversation to be Coach Mayo's influence on high school basketball, on and off the court. Also, his opinion on the present state of high school basketball in Texas, and also some advice for the young coaches out there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. First question, Coach. Everybody want to know this: what have you been up to these days? How are you spending your free time? And are you still involved in basketball, Coach Mayo?
Yes, sir. I am still involved in basketball, and I have routines, as you well know.
Yes,
I begin each day with devotionals, with scripture and prayer, and I'm very involved, just doing a sundry of different items, from speaking engagements, and that could be at churches, at schools. We do missionary work, church work, and just a lot of. I have a huge family, biological family, church family, educational / hoops family. So there are a lot of weddings, funerals, reunions, grandchildren. It keeps me quite active.
Oh yeah. Most definitely, Coach. And you're a very humble person to tell. Always being a mentor to all your former coaches and people. Because I can call you anytime, Coach, and you always just give me great advice, Coach. Just always been a great role model and definitely influence on my life, Coach.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, Coach.
To God be the glory. To
Yes,
God
sir.
be.
Jesus, Coach. Yes, sir. More Jesus. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Coach. Next question, Coach. Tell us a little bit about your background, Coach. Where did you grow up, and did you play basketball growing up, Coach Mayo?
I grew up in the Free State of Van Zant County. That's in East Texas. Real
Okay.
small towns. Grew up in the country. My dad was a cowboy from head to toe, and he did the rodeos, and we had land and a lot of God's nature. And my precious mother, she loved church, loved everything about it. She had a bus ministry in the 50s and 60s without a bus, without a phone. She'd just drive the countryside. I don't know how she did it, but she dropped the 4 kids off early for Sunday school on Sunday mornings, and she'd travel around. And I was introduced to basketball at an early age. One of my cousins really elevated my basketball at an early age, because he was real sports inclined. And so probably one of my biggest games was at halftime of the varsity game. I don't know, probably 4th grade, maybe 9, 10 years old. I scored several buckets. Yeah, it was a huge crowd, and I'm not sure how I scored them. I can shoot a free throw or two. But anyway, I really enjoyed my younger years, and I grew up in the country in East Texas with a godly family that love people.
Oh yeah, Coach. I can tell you, Coach. I myself, I still stay somewhere in East Texas. I'm currently located in Rockwall, but I got my undergrad degree from Texas A&M University of Commerce. Well, I call it East Texas State, Coach. Matter of fact, the first year I went there, they changed the name, and I'm still upset about that, Coach.
Yeah.
Coach, next question, Coach. when did you realize, Coach Mayo, you wanted to be a coach?
Well, you know, I remember in the first grade, my teacher was Mrs. Moore. And I was able to be with her in her later years because she was in the same health facility that my mother was in Van Zandt County. But I remember in the first grade, she walked me out to the bus. You know, we lived in the country. And I looked up at Mrs. Moore. Her husband was the principal. And we were very fearful of him because he had an electric paddle. And I didn't want anything to do with electric paddles. So I tried to walk the straight and narrow. And she walked me out to the bus that day. And I just thought she was just God's gift to the world because she was teaching me in the first grade. And I said, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to stamp out illiteracy and educate the children and be involved in sports. That was in the first grade.
Wow, Coach. But going back to why we do what we do, Coach, you had a great teacher, mentor, Coach, that influenced you, that made you, want to go in that career path. And you always used to tell us, Coach, that's what it's all about, having a positive impact, on people, whether or not you didn't care, Coach, whether or not we played basketball in college or not, what have you. You just wanted us to go and, be successful, young men, Coach. But like you said, have that impact, Coach.
Absolutely. And it's so important in this day and age to be educated.
Yes, sir.
And more importantly than being educated is having a good heart. Yes, and having your mind right. Think right, talk right, do right. And hundreds of our players received scholarships, and the ones that didn't, they went on. And most of them graduated from college, and they're good husbands, they're good dads, and they're making a contribution. Sure. So you were fearfully and wonderfully created, Ed, to serve him and to serve others. And this day was made just for you. Yes, isn't that amazing? My godly brother taught me to put my name in the scripture. And he said, see right here where it says, this is the day the Lord hath made. Yes, he said, that's made just for you. Yes, sir. And so I started taking that real personal. The scripture's real personal.
Sir. Well, Coach, let me ask you this. When and where, a lot of people may want to know, Coach, when and where was your first coaching position?
My first coaching position was at Dallas Spruce High School in 1971. And I stayed there 5 years. I did my practice teaching there, and the principal name was Bruce Norman. He passed away about a year ago, and he was a very godly man. And after a couple of days of practice teaching, he said, I'm hiring you to be a teacher and assistant basketball coach to my boyhood idol, John Paul Fultz. And John Paul Fultz, he didn't know me. I didn't really know him, but I followed him in the newspaper as a kid growing up in East Texas because he was always the leading scorer and rebounder. He was like 6'8", and he was leading scorer, rebounder at Samuel. Then he went to the University of Texas. So I followed him, and I can never forget that the principal said, and we'll pay you $300 for the year. I was so excited to get to coach. $300 for the year. And the principal said, well, I do want you to start a fellowship for Christian athletes. Okay. And he sent me to a meeting. I went to that meeting, Ed. And when I sat down on the first row, I usually try to sit on the first row, and it was packed full of people. It was an organizational meeting for FCA. And I looked to my right, and I was just in shock. I just kept looking, kept staring, and I finally just tapped him on the shoulder. I said, excuse me, sir, but aren't you Coach Tom Landry? He said, I am. Well, I was 21. I introduced myself to Coach Landry, and it was Coach Landry and the Cowboys who introduced FCA to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Wow. And so Dallas Cowboys, they'd come speak at our meetings and banquets and things like that. So I was very conflicted on how to weave my purpose in life of glorifying, honoring the big coach with education and hoops in a public school setting. And there it was. There was FCA. And the principal asked me to start a FCA. Then not too long after that, Zig Ziglar, the greatest inspirational speaker of all time, came and spent the day and talked to my students and players. So I was just, those were handfuls on purpose for me to be under that principal, Bruce Norman, and to start FCA, you know, with Coach Landry and the Cowboys, and then to meet Zig Ziglar. And of course, you know, he's just a great inspirational speaker. It was a real blessing. Handful on purpose, I call it.
Oh my God. Hey, I hope everybody when they tune in, they're getting a treat, a lot of great history. Like, Coach, I didn't know about the Cowboys. Wouldn't know that started the FCA, Coach, and you being one, you know, the first people to, you know, kind of promote it within Dallas. Oh my
You know,
God.
it started in Oklahoma like in 1954, and they brought it, and FCA was brought by the Cowboys and Coach Landry to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the late 60s. Well, I was at Spruce in the spring of 71, and that's when Mr. Bruce Norman, the principal, asked me to go to a meeting and start a FCA huddle. And those kids still talk about it this day. And we work with the FCA at Skyline and the other two schools that we were at as well.
Well, Coach, speaking about that, Coach, I'm gonna ask a little bit more about your coaching. How many years did you coach, and where are some of the other places that you coached at, Coach? I know you're a very humble person. You want to let everybody know each, you know, place you've been to. I know it's probably special to you. So how many years did you coach, and where did you coach at, Coach Mayo?
We coached for 46 years.
Yes,
I
sir.
retired like about 4 times during that period of time. But the first 5 years was at Dallas Spruce
Yes, sir.
High School. Then one of my mentors, Louis Orr, hired me at Skyline in the fall, you know, summer, fall. And I was there for 33 years as the head coach. He left and went to Navarra College.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Coached great players. Mookie Smith, who just passed away. A lot of great players from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Coach Louis Orr was a great mentor to me, and I was at Skyline for 33 years. One of my first assistant coaches was Val Lamar Rhodes, right out of college. And I'm so proud of him. He later became a head coach. Then I went to Nocona for 5 years, 2009 when I left Skyline to 2014. Then I was at Joshua for 3 years, 2014 to 2017, total of 46 years. And my wife's health had some challenges, and we kept our home. We live on Lake Ray Hubbard. And then when I coached away, I'd come back like on Saturdays and Sunday for church and go back usually Sunday evenings. But she had some health issues. And so I just decided I really need to be closer to her and closer to the family. I missed a lot of functions, church functions, family functions, and things like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's part of it, Coach. Coach, let me ask this. Who are some of the great players that you had the pleasure of coaching, you know, throughout your times of coaching? You know, some memorable, you know, or professional players, you know, guys that people may not know that you had the pleasure of coaching, Coach Mayo.
Well, you know, coaching is one of the greatest ministries in the world.
Yes, sir.
It was just a complete honor and privilege to coach. One of the kids we coached at Spruce was Jake Bethany, who later became, he was drafted by the Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
He later was a college coach. Then at the Dr. Pepper tournament back in, it's probably 10, 15 years ago, he was officiating
Okay.
the tournament. I got a call that he had collapsed on the floor. And anyway, time I got to the hospital, you know, we had his service Sorry about that.
No, go ahead, coach. Fine, coach.
I always called him Big Jake.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he was about 6'8", and he was just a great kid. And we had his service at our church, and he's laid to rest in Corsicana, Texas. He was the poster child. Remember the Hoop It Up, the 3-on-3?
Yes, sir.
He was on the billboards in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. His team was like one of the best in the world. And they traveled around the world. But he was one that was drafted by the NBA. Then we had a couple of McDonald's All-Americans. Larry Johnson, 1987. He was actually the high school basketball player of the year,
Yes,
the
sir.
national high school basketball player of the year as 1987. Then every year in college, he was a player of the year in America.
Yes, sir.
There's the John Wooden Award. Look up on my staircase there on got a little museum up there, and it's John Wooden Award. But then he was first pick in the NBA draft, 1987. Then he was NBA Rookie of the Year. And Darren Tillis didn't play for me. He played at Lincoln, but he was a first round pick. That's your uncle.
Matter of fact, coach, he's home now, coach. I just got through talking with him, coach. He's now assistant coach and the scout for the Dallas Mavericks, coach.
Dallas Mavericks. When he was drafted by the Celtics. That was in 1982. I was over at SMU working the Hilltop Sports Camp. Jason and myself. Jason was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years old. We were so excited that Darren was.
Coach, matter of fact, coach, a lot of people don't realize this, coach. You may not remember. I saw her today. You actually taught my aunt, Sharon Tillis, at Skyline High School. She was in your geography class, coach. You always used to tell me about you. So you taught my whole family, coach.
Yes, yeah, I remember her. Yeah, she was outstanding as well. Then we coached C.J. Miles. He graduated 2005. He's a McDonald's All-American as well, and he's played 15 years. He was the last high school player to be drafted by the NBA. That was 2005. And we just had a lot of great players that came along afterwards. Many of them. Cedric Xavier, Big Hands Walker, he graduated in 83. He was like a preseason All-American. We just had some great kids that they bought in. And when you buy into anything, if a family, if they're all on the same page, that's going to be a pretty good family. If a church, a business, if a basketball team, if everybody's rowing that boat in the same direction, you got a chance to be very successful, and not just in hoops, but in life. And that's what was so important to me, is that their lives, the why of why you do what you do. And for me, it was the person, it was the student, it was your cousin in my class, and just encouraging and giving hope to kids. You never know what they're going through, and they just need to hear. They need to hear good morning and hello, and everything's going to be all right. And just give them hope and teach them about life. But those were some of the. We just had a lot of great players. Some of them are still playing overseas. Zach Leday still playing. George Siggers, Jason Siggers, still playing. So we have a lot that are still playing in the NBA.
Coach, something that everybody wants to know, Coach. I promise you that everybody wants to know, Coach, because I was part of it. I went through it, playing for you, Coach. You have a very unique philosophy and coaching style, Coach. So let me ask you this, Coach. How did you develop your legendary coaching style and philosophy, Coach? Where did that come from?
Well, it was a smorgasbord from a lot of folks, but one of the first coaching books I ever read was John Wooden, Coach Wooden. And I had the pleasure of sitting down and visiting with him on several different occasions. He came to Dallas, and he gave clinics and lectured, and just a class act. And he was at both McDonald's All-American games I was at. The first one I was at was with Larry was in Philadelphia. And our first meal together, I was able to sit next to Coach Wooden. I just pinched myself. But, he said success. He talked a lot about success and success in life. And he said it's just giving your best at everything you do. Just give your best. And of course, to play the game of hoops, you just have to be in great condition. Your body needs to be the best it can be in, strength wise. And there's hundreds of fundamentals to the game. So it just takes a lot of effort away from the coach to be able to learn the fundamentals of the game. Just love it, like it, and play it and learn the fundamentals. And I'm just so thankful that that happened. Coach Fultz, he had an impact on me. He was I was assistant to him at Spruce for 5 years. Then Coach Orr, Lewis Orr, had a great impact on my life as well. There were just so many. I'm always thankful to that principal, Bruce Norman, who hired me. And then he wanted me to start a FCA. Then the principal at Skyline was Frank Guzik. And he was the principal there for a number of years. And in fact, I'd always wanted to do something special for him. I was like 26, one of the youngest probably coaches in the state of Texas, I guess, at a 5A. That was the highest level at that time. And so anyway, there's a school now named and built for Mr. Guzik right next to Skyline. It's called the Frank Guzik Elementary School. And it's close to my heart. Yes, I go over there several times every year, and principal for a day, and some of his family members come, and also go over there and read to the kids as well.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this. You spoke on some of your former, players doing great things. I'm going to have you elaborate on that a little bit. Are any of your former players coaching or working in education? Coach, tell us about your coaching tree.
Well, there's a lot of them. I'll
Okay,
probably
yes,
quite
sir.
a few of them out, but you can start with Ed Taylor. I mean, you obviously love the hoops and you love people, and so your life is just full of it. And as you go about your business, you understand the why. So you treat people nice, kind, and show a lot of love, and you develop relationships. Jake Bethany, the kid I talked about, he was a college coach. Another kid over at Spruce was Richie Alfred. A lot of these guys have retired. They retired before I did, but he was a great coach over to different places from Midlothian to he spent a long time coaching. He was just outstanding, as nearly all these guys are. The DFW FBI special agent in charge was one of our former players at Scott, Eric Jackson. He retired about a year ago, but he was the FBI director in charge for several years. Dr. Khalid Ross, the head coach over at Sunset.
Yes, sir.
He and his brother, all these kids went to college, and those two went to Howard University right outside of DC, one of the first historically Black colleges. And he and his brother is Iman Ross. He has a doctorate degree, but Khalid, he's the basketball coach over at Sunset, and his brother has a doctorate of psychology. And Andre Emmons, he was played at Skyline, and he's now like,
I played
you remember?
I played with we played on the same team together. I played
I,
the same years as me, coach. Yes, sir.
I think he's an administrator now at Dieball,
Yes,
but
sir.
he coached for a long time. Reginald Sistrunk, he played, I think, mostly football, but he went to Skyline, really good. He's a good athlete. Then he went over to Denton and became a head coach. He passed away from a disease a couple of years ago. I went to his service as well. I go to a lot of funerals, a lot of weddings, a lot of baby dedications. And anyway, those kids are just close to my heart.
Yes, sir.
And, Don Fleming, he's the head girls coach over at North Forney. And his brother, Brian Sanders, he coached in the middle schools, and now he's an administrator, Dallas ISD. You probably know him. Anthony Jackson, he's coaching basketball, private lessons. His nickname's the Bull. He was
Bull, yeah, I played. Yes,
Bull.
Yeah,
The Bull.
Sure.
Yeah.
I coach. I think I was. He was 2 grades behind me, but yep. I remember the Bull. Yes, sir.
And Jason Siggers, he's still playing overseas. DeLawrence McLemore, I don't know if you remember him. He was at a crossroads. There was a story he wrote to the Dallas Morning News at some point. And anyway, part of his story was when he came to Skyline, he was in a game and he had to make a decision if he's going to hang with the gang or he's going to hang with the coach. Because if he hangs with the coach, he's going to have to shower, shave, shampoo, shiny shoes, use a little deodorant, some magic foo-foo, and go home every day and tell his mama, I love you and thank you. You know, that's 5 real important words. And he'd had to make his grades. And so he made the decision for hoops. And fast forward, he got his degree at Dallas Theological Seminary, has a family, has children. It's just a beautiful story how he turned his life around. And that kid's name was DeLawrence McLemore. Brian Sanders, I mentioned. Vincent Richardson, he coaches over at Comstock. Justin DeShawn, I think he coaches maybe the elementary school, and he coaches some of these AAUs. Cameron Miles just got the job, assistant coach at UT San Antonio. Presley Swaggerty was one of our kids at Spruce. He became the head coach at Lakeview, and now he's written like 3 or 4 books, and he's a multi-millionaire, highly successful financially, and has a great family as well. But he lived in the Grove, and he was adopted. Lived in a little 3-room house. I used to take him home. I took you home a few times. I've taken him home when I was at Spruce from practice and FCA meetings. Courtney Robertson, he's now over at Spruce, and he helps coach, I think, maybe on the girls' side over there, and he helps Coach Miles. CJ's dad coaches over at Dallas Christian. So there's just a lot of trees out there, and a lot of our assistant coaches have become head coaches. Another kid, Billy Cunningham, played for us, was assistant coach with us, and now he's coaching, and he's been a head coach at several different places over the years, and he's just he's a fine young man too.
A lot of people may not know of Tyrese Maxey's dad, Tyrone Maxey, coached up under you over at Skyline High School, along with a good childhood friend of mine. Is now the coach of Arlington Seguin, Damian Boydnick, state championship coach.
That's right.
At Madison High School, was on your staff also, Coach Mayo.
That's right, and I had their names written down. Tyrone Max, Damon Barnett. He was with us. Terrence McLeod.
Yes, sir.
Stan Hill.
Stan
He
Hill, yes, sir.
coached
Yes,
Stan
sir.
Hill.
He
Yeah.
coached me. He coached me. Yes,
Val
sir.
Lamar Rhodes, his
Yes,
first
sir.
teaching coaching job was at Skyline in the late 70s. And anyway, it's just been blessed to have a lot of a head coach needs a lot of help.
Yes,
He
sir.
needs everybody totally compelled,
Yes.
totally brought in, rowing that boat in the same direction. So when you have players doing that, and you have assistant coaches and your managers, and you just have a lot of supervisors in the Dallas ISD. I mean, they're just everywhere. Everybody's telling you what to do.
Yes,
And so
sir.
my philosophy was you just do whatever they have to do with a smile on your face and
Yes,
be
sir.
real flexible.
Real flexible. Yes. And Coach Mayo, I'm laughing with you, Coach, 'cause I remember in some of our coaching meetings when I was coaching Dallas ISD, we always would have the professional development meetings, and you would always speak, and we always laugh, Coach, because you would have it written down. You say, yeah, I have like 58 bosses, and everybody thought you were joking. And one time, I think you wrote them down. You started naming, like, yeah, I have the assistant of this, and you say I have like 58 bosses. That's why I'm laughing with you, Coach, because I definitely
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. There's a lot of levels in the Dallas ISD.
Yes, sir. Coach, let me ask you this, Coach. Speaking about high school basketball, what do you think about the current state of high school basketball in the state of Texas? What are some pros and cons as far as that goes with the the state of basketball in the state of Texas, high school
When
basketball?
I asked that question, my mind went back to the 70s
Oh, okay.
when we didn't have camps. The
All
kids
right.
couldn't go to basketball camps. You don't remember any of this.
That's
Only
right.
one team in the playoffs. We were playing teams from Oklahoma, like in tournaments.
Yes,
We'd
sir.
go to up in Oklahoma and play tournaments, and every team in Oklahoma, they're smaller, but they were in the playoffs. We just had one team. I can remember several years in our district, there'd be 3 or 4 teams in our district in the top 10 in the state. Yeah, top 10 in the state, and one team would go. And so we worked a lot behind the scenes trying to, even with the Dallas ISD, in the beginning, basketball coaches, they were assigned another sport. You didn't have full-time coaches. And so we were the president of a lot of different associations within Dallas and statewide. And so we worked behind the scenes trying to get things better for the basketball coaches, for the players. We worked hard to get camps. We worked real hard to get, fall leagues, spring leagues, summer leagues. We just worked behind the scenes a lot. We worked to get more than one team in the playoff, and that happened in the 80s. Is when that began to happen. It took years to make presentations to the UIL. It took years to make presentations to the Dallas ISD, like to the superintendents, to try to get things better, to improve things for the coaches, for the players, because if you can give more attention to your players, they might get a little bit better. And if you get some assistant coaches that can spell hoops, and they can work with you and teach the fundamentals, they can improve. And so it was a process. And I entered the process in 1971. And by the 1990s, we had camps, and we had more than one team in the playoff, and just things like that. Just fighting for having. We went to the UIL to get the jazz band to play, in the during the game. Yeah, and set up guidelines for all that. There was just a lot of things went on behind the scenes, just trying to improve the game of hoops in Dallas, in Texas, and nationally. And to be able to get a lot of the McDonald's All-Americans, now in the game, it just really improved tremendously. And the Dallas ISD, they eventually saw some better ways for coaching, especially basketball, to improve it as well. And I was just very thankful that they did listen. But it's a grind, because you're never going to get it on the first time, second time, third. You just have to keep going back and be nice and kind, respectful, and keep asking. Because if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. And so I'm just so thankful now. It is 2021, and there's 4 teams in the playoffs. Yes, and when they put 3 teams, we went back to them and said, that's not real good for basketball, because now the first place team has to sit out for about 2 weeks. So if it either needs to be 2 or 4, and we suggested 4, because a lot of teams, you know, they have 8 teams in their district, and in the past with 4 teams, there've been several teams to win go into the state playoffs and do real well. And I think maybe even a state champion has come from a 4th place team. Just a lot of good coaches, a lot of good players. And you just have to be relentless and have a high energy rate to be able to keep going. Like here in a few days, we've got the Texas Basketball Convention in San Antonio, and I'll be there. And I still want to help improve what little I can do to help improve the game, and not just improve the game, but to improve the lives of the people involved in the game.
Coach, I could definitely contest to the work you did, because I know when I was in high school, Coach, we used to complain only 2 teams went. I graduated with you and played for you, graduated 95. And I remember what you're saying, Coach. I remember one year, Coach, I believe it may have been my sophomore year, maybe sophomore year, maybe my freshman year. Coach, you had Dallas Spruce that was ranked in top 10. They had Mayo Baston, Roger Taylor, a lot of great players. You had Samuel, Coach, that ended up losing that year in the regional finals to Bobby Taylor and Longview, Coach. But they were ranked in the state. Then you had Kimball that was ranked in the state, and you may have I want to believe Carter or another team, but
South Oak.
I forgot about South Oak for Tony Batty. Yes, sir, Coach the Monster, Tony Batty. But Coach, my point is, Coach, you had 2 teams end up staying at home, Coach. Only 2 teams went that year, so you had 2 great teams, with great players that probably, like you said, Coach, as a 4th place team, probably could have won state, Coach. So, these young coaches just don't understand sometimes, Coach, how appreciative they should be that it hasn't always been this way with 4 teams, Coach. I remember back 25 years ago when I graduated, Coach, it was only 2 teams, Coach. And I remember, Coach, like you said, it was some great hoops going on, Coach, but only 2 teams win, Coach. I remember one year, Coach, we had a great season, Coach, won over 20 games, beat some good teams, in our district, Coach, but didn't win enough. We were sitting at home, Coach, because only 2 teams.
It happened to a lot of it happened to a lot of players, and we wanted y'all's experience to be good. I was a fundraiser. I had to raise money. We had a program for every game. Yeah, every trophy that your team won, your name is on that trophy.
Yes,
because we had it put Edmund Taylor on that trophy, and your teammates and the managers and the statisticians. That was important on the banners, the names on the banners. Well, you had to go raise the money. And if you remember, we raised a lot of money, and it was for y'all. So you could experience, so you could take trips to tournaments where we could rent a van. We flew to New York City when CJ was a senior. And some of that we had to raise, but we didn't have to raise money for that. In some of the tournaments, if you have a really good team, they'll help pay. But there was so much that the district did not pay for. Like to have a pair of practice shoes and a pair of game shoes. The district, I think we got like $500 maybe for the year. And there's just a lot of things that you need. And so instead of, we didn't complain about it. We just went out and worked, and we tried to work behind the scenes with the decision makers to improve things. And in the meantime, we just raised the funds. And, a lot of the local businesses, McDonald's, oh, they were just so kind to our team with giving of their time, their food, their money to help us do all the things. Going to clinics, the district really didn't pay expenses. And so if you wanted to go to the Texas basketball coaches convention, you pay. Well, we had it set up where people would donate, and they would pay for the coach and assistants to go to the state tournament, to go to the basketball convention, different things like that. Just tried to make it like a college type level where the players knew that we were trying to give our best to learn knowledge and wisdom for them, trying to to elevate whatever it was. We tried to get the jazz band at the games, and had an announcer at the games, and the cheer'em leaders at the game.
Spirit club and all that good stuff.
Yes, we tried to involve, had teacher night, invite the teachers. So it's just a lot to it, and you just need a lot of help. And it sure is great assistance when the businesses provide funds and provide food and just all kind of different things to elevate the program. And our program, it was all about the kids, all about the kids and making it better and trying to help them to become better students, obviously better players, and better people, and the ones that could play at the collegiate level, get scholarships and continue their education. That was just real important to us.
Coach, last question, Coach, do you have any advice for, any young coaches that's, maybe just getting into the coaching ranks, or maybe coaching now, that may need a little bit of advice, whether it be for as management of the program, dealing with parents, officials? You have so much knowledge, Coach. Just whatever you want, you there, Coach Mayo.
Well, the most important thing are relationships. If you're assistant coach, head coach, if you're a student in life, if you're Ed tailor-made hoops, if you can't get along with folks, you're not going to have a relationship. And I get to speak at a lot of different venues. And when I'm at a church or a faith-based, if you don't have a relationship with the good Lord, you might not get to go to heaven. And that's our goal, is to go to heaven. So you need a relationship. And if I could summarize the good book in one word, it'd be relationship. Relationship with the big basketball coach, and relationship with people. And as a young coach, you obviously want to gain as much knowledge as possible. You need a pen. You need something to write with. You need a calendar. I have a calendar.
You always have.
Yes. And I have a to-do list.
I was just about to say that, Coach. I do the same thing. Coach, not to cut you off, but I remember me and one of my friends, Sean Williams. Matter of fact, he coaches. Sean Williams
coaches too.
Yes, sir. My good friend, Sean Williams used to say, Coach, used to say that he was more squirrely than a $2 bill. Sean Squirrely Williams.
I loved him. I forgot I left him off too. He is coach.
But me and Sean used to laugh, Coach, because I remember every day at practice, Coach used to have a little note card, Coach, and we used to sometimes look at your note card when you were looking. We see some of the things you got written down. You have number one, you have it broken down. I'm talking about your small detail, Coach. But you would always have a to-do list. And it's funny, Coach, that me and him talking now, and help each other out, for us mentor each other. And we both have note cards or to-do lists. Sometimes I have mine on a little one of those little sticky pads. And I walk around. I remember when I was coaching, my players used to laugh at me. Sometimes my athletic director used to laugh at me, like, Coach, what is that? And I pull out a little note card, because I say you have to be organized, to get things done. You don't want to miss out on anything. You got to be organized, Coach, because, hey, there's so much to do, you may forget, Yes, sir.
Oh, absolutely. That's you just you have to be organized, and you need to be a student of the game where you're just learning and learning and more learning. Then you want to be able to use that knowledge wisely. You want to use it wisely. And it's important to obey your supervisors, to do what they ask you to do with a smile on your face, and be flexible. Dallas ISD, it's a huge organization, and there's just a lot of supervisors, a lot of people in charge of different things, and you just have to navigate that, being nice and kind. And as I mentioned to you, I was a fundraiser. You just have to go above and beyond the call of duty. We'd have daily talking points. Those are important to talk to kids, like think right. If you think right, you're probably going to talk right. If you think right, talk right, you're probably going to do right. And a lot of handouts, you probably remember them. 6 Be Quicks. It's about relationships, and just teaching them to be totally compelled to giving their best. If you're working 45 minutes or if you're working 2 hours, just you got to be in great condition, and you just want them all pulling together, liking each other, loving each other, in the locker room, in the hallways, away from school, just be friends. And sometimes I would, if you remember this, I teach my students and players to be very, very nice to people that are a little different than you. It might be some type of disability. It could be maybe different color skin. It could be eyeglasses on. It just all kind of things can come up where people just need to be encouraged, given hope. Be quick to compliment others. Be quick to tell Edmund Taylor, you're special. You're special to the big coach. You're special to me. People need to hear that. They need to be valued. As I mentioned earlier, you were fearfully and wonderfully created. You're a master. There's only one Edmund Taylor. Over 7 billion people in the world, and there's one Ed Taylor. There's only one of you. Only one that has your fingerprint. And so there's great value, whether the students are A students, B, C, they need extra help. We just give them extra help. You find ways for them to succeed, and you give them alternative ways, but they're special. They are special. They're a masterpiece. And I think I relied a lot on FCA. I relied a lot on the Positive Coaching Alliance. Mm-hmm. I relied a lot on Zig Ziglar. I read his books, See You at the Top, Born to Win, and he never quoted the book, chapter, verse when he was in a secular setting. It's just all common sense to love your neighbors yourself. Then it says love your enemies. And not just love your enemies, it says to forgive them. Forgive your enemy. Yeah, forgive your enemy. Pray for them and bless them. There's just a lot of great concepts that we all need to learn. And you can pick those things up from books like John Wooden or Zig Ziglar or the Positive Coaching Alliance. There's just so much out there. You just have to organize your day where you can get the maximum out of your day, because there's 24 hours in that day. And two of the 3 most important things you can do for your body, number 1 is exercise. If you don't take care of your body, you're not going to be doing any coaching. You have to take care of your body. One way to do that is exercise. Exercise, and drink water and drink good food. Your body's just so important. And so if you exercise and you watch your nutrition, you can have a healthier body. And the third way to have a good physical body is to get sleep. Yeah. But those are just some things that's really helped me over the years. And anybody that knows me, they have my phone number. And I mentor mentor kids, adults, grown-ups, professionals, non-professionals. There's just things that and I don't have all the answers, but I go to the source. And there's a lot of sources. The best one is that good book. Then you've got all these other self-help type books from the Zig Ziglar's on that can really play a major part in your life. Hopefully that helps.
Oh yeah, it will. It will. Well, Coach, it has. Hey, I could sit here and talk with you all day long, Coach. You see, I'm over here. I'm just. I was talking to. I was talking to a good friend of mine. You mentored him, Lyndon Love, head coach at Carter High School in DI
Yep.
Street. Yes, sir. Now, he always speaks about you, how how you always mentored him. But it's funny that me and him talking, and we always say that you got to surround yourself, Coach, around good, positive people, like you said. And I always
Yes.
try to make sure that I learned this from you, that I always hang around people that are more successful. I humble myself, even though sometimes we think we're good and great, Coach, but I humble myself, understand it's people that do what I do, that are better than that. So I try to hang around, great people, whether it be Lyndon Love. I try to, pick the brains of, Val Rhodes, yourself, guys like that. But he always just mentions you. And matter of fact, he told me a story about when he was coaching the state championship game, and he called the timeout. He looked up, Coach, and he saw you right there, right behind the shoulder, and he drew up the play. He told him, said, "Coach, that's a good one there, Coach." And went out there, and the play, was successful, what have you. He didn't know, Coach, that you told him that you had been a big fan. He had been following him, the whole playoffs, what have you. But one thing that he got from you, he just changed, the words a little bit. But he has in his program, we had the Hoops to Boosters when we were in high school. But with him, he called, his family, Hoops family, the brotherhood. Where so, Coach, it's just amazing just how influential you have been. And I just tried to pass it on because believe it or not, coaches laugh at me. They say, "Coach, you always talk like you're old, what have you." I said, "Well, I've been blessed to be doing this since I was, 22, 23 years old. And I'll be blessed to be 45 on my next birthday, Coach Mayo." So been doing this 22 years. So I've experienced a lot, but I've learned from you that I've always built relationships. So people laugh at me because when they be surprised, like when I know guys like Scott Drew at Baylor, what have you. I knew Scott Drew when he was assistant. I met him back in 2004. I always kept in touch with him. So now, since he's the greatest coach in the world, has that national championship. It's not a bandwagon, coach that hey, he still picks up the phone for me and we talk or what have you. But it's built on relationships, Coach. People don't understand that. That's why I'm able to talk to you and Dr. Hinojosa and different people, and hopefully I'm gonna get a chance to interview Val Rhodes and other people because I have great personal relationships with these people. Y'all been
That's awesome. Yeah, you're to be commended. And we're very proud of you and your accomplishments, Edmund, and love your family.
Oh, yes.
Was so supportive of our program as well. Yes, it was just meshed together, pulling together.
Coach, we're gonna get out. I believe I have to tell the story because I just saw her before I came over and I told her I was interviewing my dear mom. We were in the kitchen talking, and I told her I was interviewing you, and she still remembers the story about my freshman year, Coach. I came to practice, Coach, and I didn't have my practice shorts. And so you say, well, Ed, why didn't you have practice? I said, well, Coach, I left my bag at home, what have you. So you said, okay, Coach. You said, okay, Mr. Taylor. So next thing I know, maybe about, because you had a relationship with the parents, that's about the coach. So you have to build a relationship with these parents. You knew my mom's schedule, Coach, so you knew about what time she got off. So you called around that time, you knew she was gonna pick up, and you told her, you said, and she thought something, was horrifically wrong. She was like, "What's going on?" Because you take things seriously, Coach. You said, "Miss Taylor," you said, "Ed came to practice today, and we had a problem. He didn't have it. He said he left his bag. He didn't have his practice shorts." And so she was like, "Well, Coach, we apologize. I apologize about that." We had you say, "No, that's on Ed. He needs to be responsible, what have you." But you gave her a good example. You said, "We're trying to allow these kids to be the cream of the crop." we trying to teach them to be executives, you know, IBM, what have you. He said, what if Ed had a job at IBM and he had a report and he went off and left his bag, he got to work and he didn't have his bag. He said, Ed wouldn't have a job, would he? So my mom started laughing. So ever since then, Coach, I always tell the story. Coach Mayo could do no wrong after that. She was bought in, Coach. She was bought in, Coach. She sold out, Coach.
Well, you're kind. I really appreciate all the great families that supported our program and loved our program so very much. Whether it was Jake Bethany's parents, or it was Larry Johnson's parents, or CJ Miles, or Edmund Taylor's. It just goes a long way when they support the program and they believe in what you do. And it's not just about their kid. It's about the team.
Yes, sir.
The team.
But one thing that I also, I know you saw me interview with Dr. Hoser, and I told him that one thing that I always remember, I learned from you when you used to give me advice when I was getting ready to, go on interviews for, positions. And you always told me to always incorporate this because you said, Ed, you have to anticipate the questions they're going to ask, do your research or what have you. And you always told me, say, Coach, they always going to ask you the first question. And they always going to say, well, Mr. Taylor, tell me a little bit about yourself. So you always used to tell me to incorporate some personal things along with what you're going to do in the program. But a couple of the personal things you always told me to tell them, but I also believe in, you said that life is all about relationships and communications and accountability. You said life is all about those three things. And people, they like to hear that. And they definitely like to hear that if they know that's really part of you, because that's what it's about, Coach. You got to have relationships and you got to know how to communicate with people. You said this earlier, got to get along with people, Coach.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's right.
Yes, sir. Coach, I'm not going to hold you up. For the people that's watching, you can go check this video out. It'll be at my website, which is tailormadehoops.com. It also will be posted on my YouTube channel, which also you can go to YouTube, is Tailor Made Hoops. I definitely appreciate it. Once again, go ahead and let everybody know who I had the great, humble pleasure of speaking with.
Well, it was my pleasure and my honor to be with you today. And I'm just so blessed to have this opportunity with you. And thank you so much, Coach Taylor.
Oh, thank you. And tell Jason and your beautiful wife and your beautiful daughter and grandkids, I said hello, Coach. Y'all family.
Yeah. Yeah, bless you.
Bless you. Have a good one, Coach. God bless you, Coach.
Bye-bye.
Coach.